Welcome, everybody. This is Martin John, and I am talking all about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao of the Day. So, Tao of the Day looks at the 81 short chapters of the Tao Te Ching and asks you to pick a number between 81 and 81, and we'll read that text. This can kind of be looked at like tarot, like picking a card and other things like that. So any number that you pick, and I would say oracle deck more than tarot, because tarot has all the suits and structure and stuff, and these are more just like 81 verses of us trying to figure out how to live a more reasonable life. I've been talking recently about living a reasonable life and looking at Wim Hof. Wim has this ability to be in the cold, right? He can sit in a cold bath, he can go outside, sit in a cold river, and like freezing temperatures, and he can actually bring the temperature the of the tub up because his body is emanating so much heat. And when I talk about living a reasonable life, that's what I'm talking about to an extent. When we live a reasonable life, we don't ask others to change for us. We don't ask other things to change for us. We don't ask other people to change for us. We accept the world as it is. And Wim Hof is able to accept the world as it is, especially when it's colder than most people would be comfortable in. So that is the depth that we can live a reasonable life. And when we don't like the food we're eating, or we don't like the company we're keeping, or we don't like this or don't like that, that is us. We're the ones not doing the not liking. No one is doing anything to us. It is our responsibility to recognize that we are engaged with something we don't like, and that's fine. It's good to be engaged in things you don't like. How can you like it? How can you recognize, with Wim Hof, he was able to see in himself the way to overcome it. Can you see in yourself the way to overcome that which you are facing? I'm going to read number 65 today. Didn't have a plan to read this one. It's just the one that I'm reaching for. It's entitled Simple Awareness. And I think awareness is a big part of understanding why and where we can add. If we can add awareness to our lives, we can find out where we're not living in a reasonable way, and we can bring that awareness to our senses. So this one, number 65, states masters aren't interested in educating people. They would rather them be yielding and kind. When people put their faith in knowledge, they lack faith in their own awareness. When they are happy to not know, they have no choice but to put faith in themselves. When governing a country, family, or self, avoid being clever and using knowledge to guide you. People are not naturally stupid or submissive. When you when not leaning on knowledge, all things are guided by awareness. Knowledge, as I was talking about Wim Hof and all of this, knowledge tells us it's cold, you're going to catch pneumonia, right? Like that's knowledge. But when you can trust yourself, knowledge is it's cold, I'm going to die. You have this knowledge that that's happening. And it's not knowledge. You don't know what's going to happen. Can you be here and be aware of what's going on in your body? And can you bring up the temperature of it? Like as we talk about Wim Hof. But what about, when you think you are the victim of something? That's your knowledge, that's your mind getting active and coming in and saying, you're the victim here. That's you leaning on knowledge, not awareness. You're not being aware of how this moment is affecting you. So many people want to be the victims of others. Oh, they're a narcissist. They're a they're an abuser. They're this, they're that. Well, how is it your life is aligned to be engaged with them? Because this is your experience. You're having an experience. They're living their life. You're having an experience that is about your interaction with them. They are just reflecting what you are deep down and what you are energetically attuned to. So are you aware of what you're doing? Are you aware of your contribution to your own victimization? So masters aren't interested in educating people. And that's a huge deal, right? Everybody that's coming out telling you you're a victim. That's people educating you about how you're a victim and how you can get out of it and all of this. But the reality is if you brought awareness to it, you would see that this is your experience. You're having an experience, and if you break that experience down to understand what is actually happening. I was talking to someone today about their experience of their dishwasher being broken, and I was like, well, maybe your experience isn't about the dishwasher, but it's about Michael, her husband, not fixing it. So your experience is vastly different than that of Michael's. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but either way, it is vastly different because you are having experience and he is having experience, and those two cannot be the same. I mean, one, you both are, you're different races, you're different ages, you're different genders. Like, you are going to approach it from a different perspective. Masters aren't interested in educating people. There is no right and wrong. There is no right way to go about things. There is no wrong way to go about things. There is no one way to do things. So the master is not interested at all in educating people. They would much rather than be yielding and kind. Can you yield to this moment and be kind? Can you yield to this moment and allow? Can you yield to this moment and like feel the cold in your body and know that you're above that and you don't have to be a victim to the cold? Wim Hof can do it. And he's just a great example of how it's not about it doing something to you. The cold will freeze people to death. And Wim Hof can sit there without a shirt and shorts and just be quiet and raise the temperature of his body. He is not living under the influence of the education everyone has been trying to tell him, which is cold is bad and uncomfortable. Truly, Julie is going to join me. And yeah, you can always come back to 65. Julie, how are
5.
you?
I mean, I'm all
5.
right. I'm enjoying the experience of 65.
Yeah, 65 is a nice one. I just decided to look at this one today. Where did it go? There it is. Yeah. 65 is nice. You want to go through it with me?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let me read the whole thing over and then we'll start afresh. Masters aren't interested in educating people. They would rather than be yielding and kind. When people put their faith in knowledge, they lack faith in their own awareness. When they are happy to not know, they have no choice but to put faith in themselves. When governing a country, family, or self, avoid being clever and using knowledge to guide you. People are not naturally stupid or submissive. When not leaning on knowledge, all things are guided by awareness.
There's something about that, isn't there? Allowing people to make their own awareness.
Yeah.
The thing that you were talking about earlier on, the teaching, people don't want to teach, So the master doesn't want to teach. It's a great thing
Yeah.
because it allows people to have a certain amount of awareness and knowing and unknowing without judgment. I really like that. There's an
You know,
example of that for me today.
yeah, please.
I was studying Mr. Erickson, Milton Erickson. Now, there was somebody who practiced his own unique way. He had all the academia you could require, and yet he still chose to do something uniquely his own way. I studied that, and then I realised that's not my way.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah. And isn't it great that he has his?
Yes,
And
absolutely, yeah.
and there is this is the thing. Like, there was a time where, and we're coming out of that time of logic, that time of we've only graded people in schools for about 200 years. We feel
Yeah,
like it's been going on forever. we feel as if like this is the standard, but actually it's fairly new. And as we kind of go about making things easier for people, we have made people not trust themselves, right? When
Yeah.
people put their faith in knowledge, they lack faith in their own awareness. When, if you were to read Milton and all of a sudden you start gathering his stuff, when you came upon a problem, you would have to go back to his books and to his teachings
That's right.
because you wouldn't have the answer.
Correct.
And but the thing is you never have the answer, but the answer is always with you, you know?
Yeah.
The solution is always there. The answer isn't something solid. I was talking to someone today about the idea of writing something down and condemning it to not change. You know, once you write something down, it condemns that thing to be that thing forever, especially written on that page and read from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. I think that's why it's like, and I don't want to downplay anything, but I think that's why it's so easy to write books today, because it just doesn't matter anymore. There's so many books out there, you'll never read them all. You might not be able to read all of the books that are going to be published in 2023 in a lifetime. That's how many books are being written. Who cares?
Yeah.
So much garbage. And all of this is trying to embrace knowledge. Everybody's got something to teach somebody. Everybody's got to
Yeah.
teach everybody what they're up to, and this is what you're feeling, and this is what it's like, and this is how you get out of this kind of a relation. This is how about we allow people to trust their awareness rather than knowledge? Let's stop
Yeah.
contributing to knowledge. Start allowing people to be yielding and kind, as it says here. And kind, I mean, I'm not one to be like, be nice, you know, but when you are yielding, you allow others to be as they are, you know.
Yes.
And
And
this is
that
what I was
is a
talking about, Wim
kindness.
Hof. Yeah, it's like you're not browbeating and you're not telling them to do or be what you want them to be. You allow them to find out who they are by yielding to
And
that which is around
allow
them.
them to experience. Allow them
Right.
to experience their own way, in their own perspective, in their own time. Allow them
Yeah.
to observe when they want to observe, how they want to observe. And then you're taking away that, you're giving the power to the individual rather than deciding that your way is the right way,
You know, it's
or
funny
what
this
you
came.
are offering is the safest option, the
Yeah.
wisest
The,
option.
the
Who
right
says it's
option.
wise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny this should come up because this morning I had a hell of a time sleeping last night. And I woke up at 1 o'clock and I was like up for hours, and I was being quiet. And then a friend of mine had released two guided meditations, and I love this woman. She's amazing. She was one of the first people I did a blind portrait of, and all of this. Like, she's been a support of mine. I've been a support of hers. She's now living in California and working with this woman, Kieran Trace, and I was always like, why are you putting your faith in this Kieran Trace? Right? Like, I was always like, you're so fucking amazing. Why are you putting your growth in this person? And Kieran is great, and Megan is amazing. And and but as I think about that, it's like she, like, I mean, I even look at like Ram Dass. Ram Dass putting, like, he had a guru. Like, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I have to recognize that that's about me. It's about me not wanting to either be a guru or have a guru.
Yeah.
I want people to be who they are. I don't want to guide you anywhere. If you go
You
there,
don't want,
go
yeah,
there.
you don't want to limit yourself,
Right.
because each
Right.
time you're following a particular line, then you are denying all the other lines. Or the
Yes,
other
and
awarenesses.
maybe
Yes.
for Megan that's not the case. Maybe for Megan this is opening her up to something that she currently is having trouble opening up to because she's
Yes. There
not
might be a purpose for
able.
her. Yeah.
Right. So I got to allow that to be, but like deep in my mind I felt that. I felt that like, and I want to steer clear of calling it judgment, but there's really no other word for it. You know,
Mm.
it was a very it was very loving. It was very like, oh, I love this person and you don't need this. And then I was like, what am I doing? Why am I
Mm.
saying this? Like maybe she does need this. Like let me bless that rather than like I want to be yielding and allow her to be who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
her
know?
choices and her
Yeah,
the things that she wants to acquire, the awareness she wants to have. That's what you'll be doing, is you'll be
right.
yielding for that. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and for me, I am like it says here, when they are happy to not know, they have no choice but to put faith in themselves. Although there are many times when I am happy to not know. There are times where that is difficult still. But I trudge on, you know, like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
say, okay, I don't know and it's okay. And I think that, you know, when it comes to my friend, in my mind, whether or not this is her experience, my experience of her doing that is like you want to know the answer, so you go turn to somebody that has the answer. That to
Or
me
you think
says,
has the answer. Yeah.
right, that to me says I I am probably seeking answers in places that I am unaware of. And I should
Mm.
look further into that. And I'm probably unhappy with my choice to be doing that. And so those are things that then this is my experience. I get to open up my awareness, find out places where I'm seeking answers and validation, and then I have to be able to look at that because that those thoughts came deep last night. And here I am picking 65 for some reason, and it's definitely connected, as all things are.
It's very, very helpful to me, which is why I said, just can you please continue with that?
Yeah.
Because it is helping me with what I don't know,
Yeah.
and it's helping me just relax with that. It's helping me to realize that people around me have their right to their own
See,
viewpoint,
they're going to do and think and say what
what
they're
they're
going
going
to
to
do,
do.
think, and say. Right. Now,
Yeah,
they, anything that you experience from that is your experience and has nothing to do with them. You know,
that's right.
this is why I've been talking about Wim Hof recently because he allows, do you know Wim Hof?
No, I was going to ask you how to spell it because I don't
W
know who
I
it is.
M W I
Yeah,
M
yeah.
Hoff, Hoff, I believe. So
I'm going to
he
look him up.
is, yeah, he is known as the Iceman. He takes like these ice baths and he goes into like freezing temperatures, rivers and stuff, and he'll sit and he'll meditate in that. And so he does
Mm,
all of this kind of cold water sort of therapy. He's also running like the hottest Mojave Desert or whatever, you know, like Death Valley and stuff. He's done all these really hot and really cold extremes because he is in
yeah,
touch with his body. His wife had committed suicide, and that experience kind of drew him to cold. Um, and so there's this idea that I talk about, which is don't yeah, you want to live a reasonable life, and in living a reasonable life, you don't ask other things to change. You change, and those things change accordingly. Well, when Wim Hof gets
mm,
into a cold bath and like filled with ice, he'll sit in it, and he actually raises the temperature of that water because he isn't asking the cold to change. He is, and that's
yeah,
reasonable. What we do is we walk outside and say, "Oh, I wish it was different." that is not a reasonable request of nature.
It's also not it's not just not reasonable, it's not real either.
Right. Right. You're never going to get that until the one day that it's nice, and that's inevitably the day you're going to have to be inside all day.
Yeah, the day
You
when
know.
you've done
Yeah.
all your washing and
And
you've
then
got
and
nothing
then
to
and then you'll
dry.
get to shake your fist at the sky even more, right? Like,
Yeah,
you know,
you
and
get
that's
to
where this
experience that because you're choosing that experience. You're
right. Yeah,
choosing
you're
that experience.
choosing to be uncomfortable or
Yeah,
to not accept this moment as it is, exactly as it is. You know, as it
yeah,
continues when governing a country, family, or self. It was really important for me to put that part in, that self, because you are
yeah,
always governing yourself. Avoid being clever and using knowledge to guide you. And I think this is
yeah.
what we've done in our first world countries, right? We've been real clever, and we said, "Oh yeah, well let's just hone everybody into be one person, and then if you're one person, then we can control you really easily, and we can, and we know what you want, and we can give it to you." And the thing is that's what we have, you know I yesterday
That's
I hung.
manageable.
Yeah,
Manageable,
that's
which
how we
means
that
that
we
someone,
manage
when you
children, we
manage
don't raise
something,
them.
yeah, when that happens, it means someone else has control.
That's
That's
right.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday I hung up a bunch of pictures at a university, a bunch of pictures from past graduates, when going all the way back to like 1982 or 1984 or something like that. And everybody on the ones in the 80s were different. It's like whoa, everybody looked different. They had different hairstyles, they had different,
Yeah.
accoutrement, all of this sort of stuff. And as you got to more modern, um as you arrived to more modern graduations, what would end up happening would be that they'd be more and more the same. And the last years, everybody, like everybody looked the same. And my message was, this is social media. Everybody telling you what to look like. Everybody telling you, we have honed it. Now all we got to do is make sure that we sell hair straightener and brushes and like shampoo, and now everybody's going to look the same.
Guided,
Yep. They have.
steered.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when we were looking at
Because
the other ones,
nobody wanted to step out from the norm because there's this kind of theory that there is safety in the herd.
yeah, I'll
It's
I'll
more
go I'll kind of go
difficult. Yeah.
unnoticed, or I won't. I
Yes.
don't want to stand out. And you know, even it's such an interesting thing. When I remember when I was, and I don't know if this is related, but maybe it is. When I was in art school, like someone's like, how to tell a real artist? They look like a plumber. The artists that look like artists, they're just playing a game.
That's their role playing. Yep.
Yep,
Absolutely.
they're just role playing.
Yeah.
That, but real artists look like plumbers. And I think that there's something to that. Like that idea that like, you know, you're clever and you're using knowledge, the knowledge that you know what an artist is, to guide you to be an artist, and all you're doing is playing the part.
That's right. Yeah.
But this next line, people are not naturally stupid or submissive. They're not stupid. They're not just going to follow you. I mean, they will for a time, but eventually they'll realize that you're taking them for a ride, and they'll jump off. And that's happening now
Yeah.
more and more all the time. More and more people are jumping. When not leaning on knowledge, all things are guided by awareness. And when you are aware of what's going on with you, then you will live more reasonably. You will stop asking the world to change, because the awareness that you have of this moment, even if you feel like you're a victim, is all about you.
Yeah. you create that
Hmm.
you experience.
Yeah.
And if you stop creating, you will still experience.
Hmm.
You will still experience. So when you stop steering, guiding, learning, exercising your knowledge to acquire a particular thing or to sound a particular way, when you stop doing that, you'll still be heard.
There's so much fear in
In
stepping
fact,
away from knowledge.
yeah, yeah. In fact, you'll be heard more because of that.
Yeah, that's right. And you'll be heard by the people that need to hear you. And that's the
Yeah,
thing. When we say you'll be heard more, that doesn't mean you're going to go out and you're going to sell a million books and you're going to do all of it. Like, you're going to step away from that. You don't need that. We don't need more people to be famous. The last thing we need is more famous people. There's enough. And I don't even I'm not even interested in keeping up with them anymore.
it's
You
almost
know?
a good thing to, for me, my way of thinking is, as long as my soul, my essence of me feels comfortable, that is the achievement that I want. I want no more than that. And when I share, my experiences or I talk, if that conversation lands deeply with one person and assists them to find their own tools, that's brilliant. But I might
Right.
not even know that,
And
and
it's
that's
not it's not
fine.
for you to know. And that's the thing. It's
Absolutely.
it's not we say, if I touch one person, it's worth it. It's like, no. If you realize yourself in the midst of
Yeah.
it, it's worth it. It doesn't matter if someone else, this idea that we're doing things for other people is so outside of the realm of reality because we can't.
Yeah,
They're
because
the ones doing it.
we're doing everything for ourselves. Everything
Right.
I'm doing, I am doing because I want that. I want to
Right. And you are
experience that.
inspired.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
inspired to do that. It isn't because you want, you want, you want. You are yielding and surrendering to this moment and who you are.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
when
thoroughly
I,
enjoying it.
when I, the other day I was talking early on in an episode of Tao of the Day, and I was talking about if in your body you had a cell that wanted to do whatever it wanted to do and didn't want to listen to your body and just decided to multiply and do whatever it wanted without being part of the whole, without surrendering to the body, that would be cancer. And I look out at the world and all of these people want to do that thing. They're like, we are not part of the body. We are not part of the whole. We are separate and I'm going to do what I want to do. And it's like, yeah. And what they do is they convince others to do that too. And they quickly get people convinced that that is the way forward. That's cancer. And it spreads, and the only way that we know to cut it out, the only way we know to get rid of it is cut it out and then treat it with, high doses of radioactivity. But really, it's about not being so resistant in your life, being aware and surrender to that awareness. And if we can do that, the cells in our body will get in line. The only reason our cells are thinking that they can do whatever they want is because we're out here doing whatever we think we want. But what we want isn't really what we want, it's what we've been told to want. So we're under the influence and we're creating disease, not only in our bodies, but in our communities as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but I thought it.
Bloody does to me.
Yeah.
It does to me. Yeah, I'm getting
Yeah.
you. I'm getting you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of
It's
those
like,
things to be aware of why, yeah, it's like I said, what I do is for me the utmost, and the real is what inspires me is for me.
Right.
It's not
And that
because
happens
I want to
to help
reach
everybody
anyone
else.
or yeah, because it does. It has its own repercussion. Once, if I gave the example of being very settled in mind and living in moments of clarity, that affects people around me because they no longer have to worry because they can see my calm
Yeah.
and my clarity. So they don't have to interject with, I'm worried about you.
Right.
Because that then becomes an energy that they can expend somewhere else, maybe even if I'm really lucky, on themselves.
Right. And then we'll all benefit from that.
Yeah,
I think that there's just been a lot of misunderstanding with what things are supposed to be. Everyone's just like, focus on others, focus on others, focus on others. Well, that's just you focusing on your ego, and you don't want to admit it. It's like
yeah,
you're
yeah,
just
yeah,
looking for a return.
absolutely.
You're looking for a
Yeah,
return on your investment. So you're literally looking. You're desiring an outcome. And it's like, no, there is, like,
yeah.
you
I've
are the
been
outcome.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
experienced that for sure. I have. Not so long ago. And I had to have a good look at myself. Why is your ego wanting to make you feel important? Because you already are important, and you're important to a very special person. Who's
Yeah.
that person? It is me.
Yes.
It is me. And that is enough.
And that's all you can experience.
Yeah,
You are the only
yeah,
thing you can experience. Like, no matter how much you want to empathize and sympathize and do all that for other people, or be moral and all this, you're still only experiencing what you're experiencing. And
yeah.
you haven't been able to experience anything other than that your entire life. And yet we always walk around going, others, 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 others. They are doing this to
Mm,
me. I need to do this for them. Whatever. And it's
mm.
all just a bunch of stories that don't go anywhere other than our ego. It's just like, oh, my ego and my ability to be a victim, my ego and my ability to be the hero, my ego and my ability to be the villain, whatever, like it's all about me. And we like to, and we can very easily go, but look, I'm serving food at a homeless shelter. Yeah. And like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, of course we should do that, but it's like, are you utilizing that to feel, are you utilizing that because you need to have something like that in your life, or is that something that's happening just through your being? Is it coming from, a place of honesty, or is it coming from a place of, like, this is what people should do, so I'm doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
That
Yeah,
moral
yeah. I'm
stance of,
setting
like,
an example. I am setting an
right, I'm
example for
teaching,
everyone else.
right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what it is,
yeah.
teaching, right? That's like, masters aren't interested in educating people. They would rather than be yielding and kind. It's like, whether or not you go to the homeless shelter or you give money to homeless people, you can still, like, you are still, like, great. And as long as you're doing these things, like yielding to this moment, surrendering to your life, and being kind along the way as best you can, like,
Mm,
then you don't have to educate people. You don't have to learn my ways. You don't have to do what I do. Just keep it up, because you're contributing to the whole. You're contributing to the whole body.
mm.
But we get under the influence so easily. And so we don't even know which way's up sometimes.
I've noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed lots of influence I've actually asked for. I've asked to be under the influence of a title. I've asked to be
Yeah.
under the influence of being educated. I've asked for the
Mm-hmm.
influence of maybe people viewing me in a better light because I'm educated. what's
Right.
that about? And it just
Right.
brings me back to what is that about? What is
What
your
am I, what am I looking
why?
for?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
what what is
yeah,
what is
exactly
what is
that.
the
Yeah.
destination here? What am I doing? And that's what,
Who am
when
I
not leaning on
satiating?
knowledge, when not leaning on knowledge, all things are guided by awareness. That's the thing. When not
Mm,
leaning on what you know is, oh, people that are educated make more money. People that are educated get more respect. People that are
yeah.
educated, those are bits of knowledge that you picked up. Maybe you weren't given it. Maybe you acquired it through observation or whatever. But all of that
Mm.
influence, that's knowledge. That's your knowledge. You know that this happens, and so you're going to steer your life in a way that gets these things. But then if you can
Or
go on.
I'm going to just go through with acquiring a little bit of knowledge because I enjoy what it teaches me about
Yeah.
myself.
And there's absolutely
And
nothing wrong with acquiring any of it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's the beautiful thing. None of this is wrong, but it's like it's when not
awareness.
leaning on knowledge, all things are guided by awareness. If we
Mm.
lean on knowledge, then our awareness gets pushed to the side. We can have knowledge, but if we lean on it, meaning what that means in my translation is that when we put that ahead of our awareness.
Maybe I could describe it this way, Martin John. So if I relied on knowledge, I could pick up a script and read it to you. That would be giving you knowledge. It'd be
Mhm.
acquiring knowledge myself. But would you feel the connection between me and the words that I was speaking?
Right. And that's
That's
and that's
that's
it.
a
Like,
beautiful kind of visual of it. Yeah.
yeah,
Am
like
I
leaning on
feeling those
knowledge would be like,
words?
here's this book. This is the book of knowledge. Are you going to read from this? And that would be leaning on it versus closing that book and saying, I read the book. That's cool. Now I am going to be me in awareness and feel what I'm going to say next rather than
Yes.
have it dictated to me.
Yes. Yeah. Perfect.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Martin John. You're amazing
Yeah.
as always. You're
No,
just
I love it.
awesome.
That's true. I said that, and I'll say it
And
again
me.
today.
I am too.
we are
Take
we are
care. Bye
all
bye.
we are all awesome. We are all doing such great work. I so appreciate you, Julie, and everybody else that follows the Tao. It's a wonderful experience for me to be able to present this and to share with you guys so much of what has helped me along the way. I don't know who I would be if I wasn't introduced to the Tao 20 some odd years ago, and it's definitely a big part of my recovery, both from addiction as well as my MS diagnosis. It's Thursday, and I should be back tomorrow. I can't imagine I wouldn't be. So thank you so much for joining me. If you guys are benefiting from the work that I do here on Wisdom, consider sending me a tip over at Venmo at @MartinJohn_Garcia. And I'm going to be signing off now. Thank you so much once again, Julie, for joining me. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.